Ready, give it to go. Terrence, you first. Accio. Good. Bailey.
Accio.
Very good. Luke.
Accio.
Wonderful. Now Gretchen.
Accio.
Excellent. Now all together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Accio Hogwarts Radio.
This is Hogwarts Radio, episode 231 for January 26, 2019. Hogwarts Radio is the official podcast from Wizarding News for HPA&A, discussing all things Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, and the rest of the Wizarding world. For the quickest up-to-date news on the franchise, make sure you check out wizarding.news. Hello everyone, and this is Hogwarts Radio, broadcasting to Harry Potter fans worldwide since 2008. I'm Terrence Pinkston.
I'm Bailey Riddle.
And I'm Luke Hogan.
Our show can be found virtually anywhere online, such as iTunes, the Google Podcast app, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Radio Public, and other places where podcasts are aggregated.
It doesn't matter where or how you listen, just make sure to tap the subscribe button, and we guarantee you'll have a new episode each Sunday.
We also invite you to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, so you never miss an update from the show.
Don't forget, Hogwarts Radio is also on Patreon. By pledging, you'll have instant access to many benefits, including Into the Common Room, behind-the-scenes planning of the show, Hogshead Radio, and much more. Visit patreon.com/Hogwarts Radio to sign up today. Welcome to episode 231. It's 3 minus 1. Ooh, that rhymes. 3 minus 1, 231. Gretchen.
Thing, Terrence.
I know, everybody's all confused right now. They're like, what the heck is this guy saying? Sure, we'll agree with him.
Do you know how to math?
No, I sure don't. Sorry.
I've mathed before.
I've mathed before, but it's hard.
I've been to math. It's like really hot there, right?
Math? No, that's hot.
The Isle of Math.
Anyway, Gretchen has the week off, and we're back to discuss some more Harry Potter news, and it seems more Fantastic Beasts news nowadays. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's because of the film series that's happening.
I mean, maybe we should just rebrand to Fantastic Beast Radio?
Yeah, maybe. That sounds good. I mean,
Well, Hogwarts is set either. It's in both, so it's not Harry Potter specific. So we're safe. I think.
What you're saying is we got that 1,000 years to play around with, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's you branded it well from the start. It opens a lot of avenues.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I knew I did something right. Fantastic. Anyway, I'm staring at my desk, you guys, because I have like 15 Pop Funkos here, and like 14 of them are Harry Potter-ish. I found my smarmy Lockhart. I lost him, right? I lost him in Europe whenever I was over there in, September or something like that. And then I went to, funny story, I went to every single Barnes & Noble because it was a Barnes & Noble exclusive. I went to every one that was in my area and asked them specifically if they had a smarmy Lockhart. And I was like, guys, I'm looking for a smarmy Lockhart.
Like, this guy.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, like, this guy, he's off his rocker, what the hell is he thinking? And
he is adamant about this, though. He really wants one.
What on earth is a smart?
I just have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, yeah, no, I was like, oh my God, I need a smarmy Lockhart, right? I need one for the show. And these poor employees over at Barnes & Noble are like, what the hell is a smarmy Lockhart? We were searching through all the Funkos, and I couldn't find a smarmy Lockhart to save my life. Well, the last one I went to. Yeah, I mean, the last one I went to, I was like, oh, this is him. And I was like, wait, that's Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been branded specifically by Funko yet to do the official Smarmy Lockhart edition yet. The door's open, Funko, if you would like to contact me at Smarmy Lukehart at hogwartsradio.com, I believe. We'll respond. We'll get in touch.
You know what's funny about this is that I was like, oh, this is, Gilderoy Lockhart. But, with Smarmy Lukehart, I feel like he would come with maybe the blue robes and a microphone.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Or a letter. I
wish that whole day of interactions that you had was recorded. Like, I wish we just had like the video of those interactions with all of the confusion.
That would have been pure gold.
I can never show up to another Barnes & Noble here in town again. That's it. It feels like we have been off for a while. In fact, we've only been off for a week, and we haven't been off. That's how busy it's been. But we have learned a couple of things in this long week since we've recorded last, like Fantastic Beasts 3 filming. We knew that was supposed to happen in late spring and early summer. Well, in fact, that's been pushed to fall. And according to our very own Gretchen Rush over at MuggleNet, Deadline Hollywood has speculated that the announcement is nothing to be alarmed about. The production team simply needs more time to work on pre-production before filming can begin. Crimes of Grindelwald has only just been released, and the team could definitely use more time to work on the pre-production for the next film. Of course, fans are wondering if this is a direct result of the somewhat lackluster box office results of Crimes of Grindelwald. And we know that sequels have been pushed before due to box office numbers of the previous film. But after the exciting ending of Crimes of Grindelwald, hopefully the release date of the third movie won't be pushed out so we can get answers. It's the most important thing right now. And as of right now, all we can do is speculate to the exact reason why filming has been pushed. Hopefully this delay just means that the third film will be perfect by the time it reaches our screens. I can't help but think the lackluster performance had a play in this. That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's only natural. If the film did well, I can't see it not being pushed.
Yeah. I mean, I unfortunately think you're right. Not that it's unfortunate that you're right, but it's kind of unfortunate that's the reason. And it stinks because, I was super jazzed about this movie, and pushing it back further to me, and I know we've had chats about this kind of topic already, like, it almost seemed to me like they should get it out sooner rather than have the wait time between these movies lose any kind of traction that they have right now. I think pushing it out further, unless it's done really, really well, and you kind of woo some of those fans that potentially you've lost back, I think the longer wait time could also be detrimental for that. But I mean, it's kind of that constant trade-off. I'm used to it. I'd rather it be done well than rushed, for sure. But if I reference like Game of Thrones, they've pushed back here and there, and it's typically turned out pretty well. Big season 8 coming up will be a big test on that theory as well, though. But yeah, to me it stinks, but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they're using this time to really refine the script and make sure that everything plot-wise makes sense and doesn't have to be explained. Because I feel like with Crimes of Grindelwald, there was a lot of things that until you read the actual script tie-in, you kind of miss out on what's going on or who certain people are because there's not enough explanation within the film itself. So I think this can only help the film as much as it sucks for it to be pushed back.
I can only hope that they're doing this for the reasons of, hey, we want to fine-tune the screenplay. We want to make sure that everything's good to go, that there's no inconsistencies, because I really do think the backlash that Crimes of Grindelwald received, it did get to them. They legitimately want to do this franchise justice, right? They really want to get everything right, and they understand the importance of this to the fans. But at the same time, it's like, well, how do we do without us being rushed? Well, that's that you push back the movie or you push back, production on the film. You make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, and then you go for it. Let's face it, Harry Potter and Wizarding World fans are some of the most critical fans in the world because we care so much about this franchise, right? That we care so much about this world. And we are experts. We are subject matter experts on this world. Heaven forbid they get one detail wrong. The fans are going to light them up like the 4th of July.
Right. I would rather they take their time and make the best movie they possibly can. Because I think at the end of the day, when you have good content, it's good content, no matter if it comes on time or if it's pushed back. The fans are going to appreciate that it's done right and it's done well.
Now,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's where, like, if they push back and it turns out that the time that they take is worth it, it makes it clearly a better designed film, then I think the people that were frustrated with this last movie will be right, back, those initial reviews will come out that it's like, hey, this is, it's like fixed almost. And I think all those people will give the film franchise another chance. But it's going to be kind of like, well, if you make the same mistakes again and you have this push, then that's kind of a nail in the coffin on certain things.
Now, are we wrong as fans to be so critical of this film franchise?
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
Well, okay, so we have different takes of this past film and how it ties into the franchise. We have different views, and some of us are okay with the gaps in canon. Some of us aren't, and some of us are okay with us waiting for answers, and some of us aren't. Where's the middle ground here? Where do we as fans say, you know what, we're going to give this third movie a chance? If they have to push filming, if they have to push production, we're going to give them a chance. It's just like, where do we start understanding as fans that Warner Brothers is really trying here? They're really trying to get their ducks in a row. They're really trying to get canon straight. I mean, where does it begin? Does it begin, are they doing the right thing about pushing this movie out to the fall? Are they doing the right thing about making sure that the screenplay makes sense canonically? Is that a word? Canonically? Canonically? Canonically. I mean, where is it that the fans are just expected to hold off, and trust in this film company, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's just kind of time will have to tell. To see it kind of graded after almost the movie comes out, we can speculate all we want, but until we have the next film, it's hard to really say if the time was well spent.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we have to trust that they're going to do a good job, because at the end of the day, they're all we have. We're never going to get a different version of this. It is what it is. And whether we like it or not, that's what they decided to put out.
Yeah.
And I canonically like it.
I canonically agree.
I am not going to try and use canonically.
Well, let's talk about some Oscar nods that some Potter alumni have received. It's Oscar season once again. This according to the MuggleNet.com article. The nominees were announced earlier on January 22nd, with two notable Harry Potter alumni up for awards. First is Alfonso Cuarón's new film, Roma, received 10 nods, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Foreign Language Film, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, Best Production Design, and I think that's it. And A Partridge in a Pear Tree, right?
This was a very well put together, highly technical movie.
So he must be doing something right, apparently, to get all these Oscar nods, right?
Yeah, and it's not the first time. I mean, he's gotten them on multiple films that he's done post-Potter.
I think Gravity was the recent one that he had won best. Was it? He didn't win Best Picture, or did he? I don't remember.
Don't believe Gravity won that year.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was for, but I do remember that maybe Anne Hathaway had won in that, or Matt Damon, or whoever the hell played. Who was that actor?
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Anne Hathaway, Sandra Bullock, Matt Damon. They're all running together. They all played in movies.
They all play the same parts. They're the same actor.
Yeah. Especially Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway.
But
I see the similarities.
So here's my.
I think you're like mentally combining Gravity, Interstellar, and The Martian all into one film.
Sorry. Yeah, I kind of am. So, Alfonso Cuarón is a cinematic genius, apparently. If he's getting all these nods, why do you think people had such a hard time accepting him as the Prisoner of Azkaban director?
I don't have a hard time accepting him as the director. I just have a hard time enjoying what he did with the Potter franchise.
It was a stark departure from where the first
exactly
were. It was not a gradual change like could have been done. Like the books, I felt like did. I mean, it definitely gets darker. There's no doubt about that. But it's more of a gradual. It's like if you like drop some ink drops into a glass of water. Over time, it gets darker. But it was just like hey, this is all ink. It's just like it's dark.
I mean, for me, it's not even that it goes from just light and fluffy to dark so quickly. It's just there was so much change. I mean, with them not wearing the uniforms around, and just you have 2 films in a row that Chris Columbus set up in a certain style, and then Cuarón just comes in and is like, nope, we're getting rid of all of it. We're going to do brand new uniforms, and we're going to not wear the uniforms, and we're going to give everybody a personalized wand, which I appreciate. That's my favorite thing that happens starting in movie 3 is that everyone has their own unique wand.
Right.
But it was so many changes all at once.
It was just, it wasn't gradual. It kind of flipped from that Chris Columbus mode to Alfonso Cuarón, and it happened within the span of one movie. At the end of Chamber of Secrets, we were applauding Hagrid for returning to the Great Hall, and that's how the movie ended. And then at the beginning of Prisoner of Azkaban, it's like, oh crap, well, we're in this whole new kind of setting, this whole new feature that...
Yeah, well, and we're using magic at home without supervision and without getting letters from the ministry and just all kinds of things that are so not accurate.
Wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean...
Yeah, when you have a story that has these firm rules set in place, and they become plot points at certain times, and you just, use it so flippantly.
The previous movie, Harry gets in trouble for Dobby's magic.
Right.
And then, lo and behold, we're doing magic at home and not getting in trouble.
Yeah. Not the worst movie, though.
Oh, what's the worst movie?
Goblet of Fire really bothered me.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah. If
I had to choose another one besides Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay, I got you. 2 different answers, 2 different contrasting views, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a later episode. Also, I mentioned one. Alfonso Cuarón was one nod. Well, there was a second nod. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, featuring the voice of Lita Lestrange. Actress Zoe Kravitz as Mary Jane Watson was nominated for Best Animated Feature. I personally haven't checked this out yet. I'm not sure if I want to. I'm not quite into that. But now that I'm seeing Zoe Kravitz as Mary Jane, I am definitely going to be more inclined to check it out, I think.
I have heard nothing but good things about that film, and I, to be honest, was not very excited to see it when I first heard about it, but I've not heard one bad review, so I think I'm probably going to be heading to theaters sometime very soon to go see this.
That's the funny thing is, the last movie I went and saw in the movie theater was Crimes of Grindelwald. Well, they had this preview right in the front of the Crimson Grindelwald movie. So I don't know. I didn't know how I felt about it. I mean, I'm definitely into animated films. I really enjoy them, but this one didn't seem that appealing to me. But now that I know Zoe Kravitz is Mary Jane Watson, well, I might have to make a trip to my local theater and check this out. My local $1.50, because I'm sure it's at the $1.50 theater now. Luke, what about you? Have you heard about the latest animated Spider-Man film?
Nope.
Nothing?
Didn't know about it.
At all?
Luke hasn't even seen all of the Marvel films yet. We're not there yet.
Oh.
I'm an avid rereader. I reread the same things because I know I like them. I'm usually not let down by trying new things. I'm not like averse to trying things. I just tend to find it easier to just get deeper into the things that I know I love. But there's still plenty of nuggets to pull out of. I mean, Harry Potter, Song of Ice and Fire, they're so dense and well put together. Plus 4 different podcasts, running a company, working full time. I actually have been to the movie theater more recent than either of you, though, which is interesting. Ooh. I did not expect that, but I took old Griffin to see the Bumblebee movie, which was a lot of fun for his first in theater experience.
Aww. So I've been wanting to see that. How was it?
I would recommend it. I thought it was fun. It was good. I haven't seen all of the Transformers movies. I've definitely seen the first one or probably the first 2. I don't know if I saw the third one or any after that, but it was fun. It's worth checking out.
How did the old Griffmeister do his first?
He held up pretty well. I was we sat all the way down in front. Aww. And so he was able to kind of run around a bit. They were like really well spread out chairs, so he really wasn't bothering anybody, and he was pretty quiet the whole time. So he loved the movie. I mean, luckily it was a movie that a lot of visual things to keep him fully engaged pretty well. So that was a fun time. Good experience.
I saw your snaps from it, or your I forget which outlet it was on now because we have so many. But I saw that.
I think they were snaps. Yeah,
that he was enjoying himself. So that's great. That's wonderful. Something I'm sure he'll look back on fondly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that's about it for the news. I mean, there hasn't been too much going on in the past couple of weeks. We'll be sure to update everybody on the Oscar situation there. Let's move to a couple of announcements today. Do you want even more Hogwarts Radio? Do you want even more of this? You know you do. You want more of this. You want... I'm like, you want more of this? Huh? Come on.
Yes, you like? Yes, you want more?
You like very much? Okay.
Come at me.
Well, guys, so we only need, at this point, 3 more patrons until we hit our next goal. If we hit a total of 15 patrons, we're going to extend our show runtime to 1.5 hours, which is great. That's more Hogwarts Radio for you guys. For us, on the financial side of things, 15 patrons will allow us to get the additional hosting we need to be able to extend our shows, because the longer we make our shows, the bigger our file size is, and we're kind of running out of room as is. So 15 patrons is going to allow us to be able to do that. So we invite you to sign up at patreon.com/Hogwarts Radio. Any amount that you're willing to sign up and donate to the show is wonderful. We appreciate all of our patrons, and especially the ones that are listening to us live right now. So thank you so much. Also, we're looking for another part-time host for the show. If you've got about 2 nights a month for free to record with us, and you want to talk Fantastic Beasts and Harry Potter, send us an email to staff@hogwartsradio.com. And we'd love to talk with you about joining our team. We've received so many submissions right now. I can't thank you guys enough. We're going to try to get through all of them and pick out the ones that, we think are going to be a good fit for this show. And it's really wonderful, the emails that we're getting in. It's that if people say, oh, if I'm not selected, well, I hope you find the right fit for your show. So it's not that it's like, pick me, ooh, me, like Donkey Style from Shrek. It's like, oh, I truly hope that you guys find the right talent for your show, even if it's not me. So I'm very pleased about that. We have some really humble listeners. Our last announcement today is don't forget to rate and review our podcast on iTunes. We are specifically looking for iTunes reviews to kind of help us climb in the rankings. And in fact, I'm not entirely sure how iTunes does it. Nobody really is. I mean, how iTunes grabs the rankings for specific shows and decides, oh yeah, we need to feature this show. Like I said, nobody knows for sure, but it's nice to let other podcast listeners and other Harry Potter fans know what you think about our show. So we invite you to give us a review and a 5-star like on iTunes. We greatly appreciate all the support that you show us. Well, before we get to this week's discussion, I want to tell you guys about Luke's Network. This week's episode is brought to you by the podcast That family of podcasts, and we are so fortunate to have Luke on the show on Hogwarts Radio. We know that your time, gosh, is spent between planning other shows, recording other shows, editing other shows, the post-production phase of other shows. It's pretty crazy how you have time for this. I barely have time for this show.
It's certainly a lot. I've basically just given up sleeping, which is why I think I'm sick today. Bailey's been on me to try to make sure I sleep more as part of my goals for 2019. So far, it's been better.
Okay.
I need to try to delegate some more work out, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun with all of our shows in our network that we have. We have obviously the podcast That Must Not Be Named, which is our Harry Potter chapter by chapter reread. My sister Melissa and I do that. We're right around halfway through book 4. So yeah, we started that very beginning of 2017. So just over 2 years now. And yeah, there's something like 100 something episodes we've done for that. 103 or so posted. And we've got our Game of Thrones show, the podcast that drinks and knows things, which I recommend if you're going to check that out, find us on YouTube. It's also available on iTunes and everything. But we do live stream recordings of all of our episodes, and we drink and we know things. Sometimes more drinking than knowing, but that's okay.
You guys are gearing up for season 8 too, right?
Oh man, I am so ready for season 8. One, because of the time commitment. Recording every single week is difficult, but and also I'm just excited for the show. I'm a big fan, and I think they've made some good choices in the last season to try to get to whatever this end game is going to be. So I'm really looking forward to it. And we also have the podcast That Floats Down Here, which is a Stephen King basically read through podcast where we started with It. We're about halfway through that, actually a little bit past halfway on that book. We'll be moving into other Stephen King's works after that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work too, but it allows me to meet cool people like you guys. When you guys kind of approached me to come be on here, I was like, man, that's a little different than my normal skill set, doing current event type things. But it's been a pleasure to be exposed to these kinds of things, because like I said, I don't really go out of my way to find new things. I'm just good with staying in my own lane kind of thing.
Your own bubble, right?
Right. I have my own canonical bubble, and I just want to stay in it sometimes.
I encourage everybody to go check them out. The podcast That family of podcasts, it's thepodcastthat.com. Check out all the shows that they have there. In addition, we invite you guys to, if you're not a patron of the Podcast That Network, go ahead and become a patron. I promise you won't be disappointed. You'll get your Slack channel access. You'll get access to the podcast That Must Not Tell Lies, which is, I love that podcast. I think it's fascinating.
That's actually one that my buddy Alex and I do, and it's it gets me excited about it. It's all about magical theory and fan theories. Yeah, the first topic that we went through is essentially Grindelwald, and a lot of this was all the first episode that we recorded as this kind of bonus episode for patrons only. It's we recorded well before Crimes of Grindelwald was out, so there were some things in there that potentially changed some of the theories that we had, but so it is the podcast that must not tell lies, and it's a spoiler-filled Harry Potter podcast from within the Department of Mysteries, where unspeakables, Alex and Luke, twist fan theories and magical theory to suit facts in J.K. Rowling's magical world of Harry Potter. You can follow that show on Twitter at NoMugglesPod. The first episode that we had for that was all about wand lore and the scene with Ariana and Dumbledore and the two Dumbledores and Grindelwald, and how it all played out in the long run. Kind of trying to figure out why Albus hesitates to go after Grindelwald, and so there's some speculations in there as well. But hey, we've had a lot of fun with that for sure. We should have more coming out fairly soon.
Yeah, it's one that I encourage you guys to take a listen to. It's a lot of fun. It makes you think. It's not like your typical Harry Potter podcast, so please check them out. The Family Podcast. You know, whenever you become a patron, you become a patron of all the podcasts. So you get all that exclusive content there. So again, check them out. The podcastthat.com. We thank them so much for their support of Hogwarts Radio. So this week's discussion is centering around Seamus Finnegan. We're continuing our Dumbledore's Army character analysis. Seamus is Seamus. He is a bit of a different character than what we're used to. I mean, he's very hard-headed. He's very resolute in his decisions that he makes and his beliefs. It doesn't seem like there's much changing his mind until he's actually proven wrong. And I think that's proven time and time again of him trying the same spell 14 times and lighting things on fire and stuff like that. So before we jump into the meat of the discussion, let's talk about some of our favorite famous Seamus moments.
Seamus thoughts.
Our famous Seamus
famous
moments.
Seamus.
Yes.
Oh, I think my favorite Seamus moment, it's a movie moment. It's got to be in Deathly Hallows Part 2 when McGonagall asks him and Neville to please go blow up the bridge. He's like, blow it up? You mean boom?
Yeah, and she's like, boom.
It's precious to see just the interaction between the two of them.
Yeah. Like, my favorite moment of him is as an 11-year-old, he's trying to turn water into rum. and the surprising thing is that he actually managed a weak tea. That's pretty advanced magic there. I mean, I doubt he could have replicated it, but he this 11-year-old trying to turn water into rum, what is he going to do whenever he actually does it? Is he going to drink it? I don't know any 11-year-olds that like alcohol.
I wonder if his managing a weak tea is because he's using tea bags to try and turn this water into rum.
Just insert
what you didn't see is someone Wingardium Leviosaing a tea bag into the water when he wasn't looking.
Yeah, but how do you set water on fire? Like, that's pretty advanced magic in itself too. Anyway, that's my favorite Seamus moment.
Yeah, mine is going to be pretty much the same as Bailey's. I definitely appreciate the turning water into rum, for my own personal reasons. But I think when he's finally kind of vindicated, he's justified on all of his pyrotechnic, silliness that we get over each movie. It finally makes it worthwhile that it's, actually usable. To me, it took something that was a bit unnecessary and silly each time we saw it and made it actually a really nice character moment between him and McGonagall and just the excitement on his face. Yeah, I think it's a really, really strong scene.
It's definitely a skill that he fine-tunes throughout his years of Hogwarts. But let's get into the character of Seamus Finnegan. He was born between September 1st, 1979, and August 31st, 1980. Again, I mean, I feel like this is for most of the characters because we don't know true birth dates, but we do know that obviously he's in Harry's year, right? His family includes Mr. Finnegan, Mrs. Finnegan, and Fergus, who is a cousin. His magical characteristics are his boggart is a banshee, his wand is unknown, and his Patronus is a fox. I would have expected his Patronus to be like a phoenix since he likes to light things on fire.
Or maybe that's something it's like more of like a kindred spirit, it's
yeah,
and maybe something more like a yeti, abominable snowman would be something ice cold or watery, maybe like a kraken that would put his fire out.
So some of his skills, of course, we'll just jump into it. The pyrotechnics, while not a specific branch of magic, he is very skilled in his ability to conjure or create magic that will have a pyrotechnic effect, stemming from his various mishaps in his first year. And of course, as we just stated, this was demonstrated useful during the Battle of Hogwarts when Professor McGonagall instructed Neville, Cho Chang, and Seamus to blow up the bridge in the Hogwarts grounds. So during his first year, he was sorted into Gryffindor House. He was introduced to the Gryffindor House ghost, Sir Nicholas, who students often called Nearly Headless Nick, of course. And he asked how one could be nearly headless. And in the movies, we got Hermione saying this, to which Nick pulled his head almost off. So during his third year, because we don't hear too much about him during the first and second years. We know he's an avid Quidditch fan, of course, but we really don't have any real solid interactions with him. It's just kind of he's a character in passing that he's there. During his third year, he had the defense against the dark arts lesson, of course, with Remus Lupin. And when he came face to face with the boggart, the creature turned into a banshee with floor-length black hair and a skeletal green face. Not how I pictured a banshee at all. And when the banshee began to shriek, Seamus used the ridiculous charm to take her voice away and he earned 5 house points. I wonder why his boggart, I wonder why that's the biggest thing that he fears. Did he come face to face with this creature as a child? Is it something that really frightened him that he read about? How did Seamus know what a banshee looked like?
Maybe he read Gilderoy Lockhart's book, and that just terrified him.
He was assigned to read it. I mean, that was in his in the syllabus of year 2. Mm-hmm. So he should have. The abandoned banshee.
Very true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think at that point, after taking Lockhart's class, my boggart would be Lockhart.
Yeah, I think it also falls back to kind of classic Irish folklore. I mean, the banshee is definitely something that stems from that, and other areas as well. But we know with Seamus growing up Irish, he very likely would have heard some of these old tales. And, sometimes you just hear like a certain story when you're a certain age, when you're little or whatever, and it sticks with you. Oh, now I'm afraid of, the big bad wolf because it was told to me in such a convincing way. And that's just the thing that's stuck with me. And now I'm afraid of that. You're pretty impressionable when you're growing up, and I don't know, maybe his mom or his cousin Fergus was telling him these old stories, these old ghost stories, and that's the one that just stuck with him the most. Maybe they lived out in the woods, or something, or near kind of secluded, and it's kind of like a realistic worry when you don't know.
You know what that kind of reminds me of is The Sandlot. How they were all afraid of that dog.
Hercules.
because they heard all the stories about him, and then, it was passed down from kid to kid to kid to kid. And, at that point, it just became something that was, of course, absurd, but,
The urban legend.
Yeah, it stuck with the kid. So I think that was, and then, of course, at the end, it turned out to not be true. But yeah, very good point. How kids are impressionable. And I'm kind of thinking, whenever I was younger, did I have any fears? And I can't think of really anything in general. Maybe Bigfoot. Bigfoot seems to be a common one, or the Loch Ness Monster, or the monster under your bed, or the monster in your closet. You don't know what it looked like, but through illustrations of various monsters, I'm sure that you were exposed to as a child, you could kind of formulate what it might have looked like in your mind. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder at that point, if I was 11 years old standing in front of a wardrobe and a boggart came out of it, what it would look like. Probably a combination of all those things.
Yeah. And it says it's supposed to be like your deepest fear, but it's not the mirror of Erised where it's like reading your soul. It's like pulling something like from the front of your brain, like, hey, I'm just looking to scare you right now, right? I mean, because we know that they can change. Your Patronus changes over time, just depending on where you're at. Like, even Harry was like, I thought it would change into Voldemort, or, everyone thought it would change into Voldemort, where the year before it probably would have. But now that he's seen the Dementors, there's no doubt it's going to be the Dementors. But, 10 years later, or even after he learns the Patronus, maybe it's not really the Dementor anymore because he's kind of solved that problem. So it's just looking to scare you as hard as it can in that moment.
That's interesting. I wonder what Harry's would be now. Very interesting. My God, I'm thinking.
Oh no, we're about to fall down another.
No, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Or rabbit. Fear. Another episode.
My biggest fear: falling down rabbit holes.
You want some about Dementors? Well, we can do this all day.
Hunting
and
rabbits.
I will.
Don't follow the white rabbit. Don't follow the white rabbit. So, so in Goblet of Fire is when we really start to get more of Seamus and start to see more of his character and how he interacts with other students. So over the summer of 1994, Seamus and his mother, along with Dean, attended the Quidditch World Cup between Bulgaria and Ireland. Now, being Irish, the pair obviously supported Ireland. Their tent was covered with shamrocks. And when Seamus ran into Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they assured him that they would be supporting Ireland as well. He signed a deal with McDonald's, got shamrock shakes for everybody.
Those are delicious.
Presumably, Seamus was delighted when, Ireland won that year. And so by the start of term, Seamus was still wearing his Ireland rosette. It still called out the names of all the Irish players, but feebly and exhaustedly. I can't imagine that. It's like this thing is like, put me out of my misery. It's saying various names, and I almost feel sorry for it. Even though it's an object.
The magical batteries are running out, right? It's just getting slower.
Or the charm is wearing off in general.
Yeah.
There's got to be some way to, turn off the power button, save it for when you really want to remember.
Yeah, it's like those LED lights that you wear either to a baseball game, a hockey game, some sporting event, right? And, you want to save them for the next time. Well, you turn them off because obviously you're not going to keep them on all year or they're going to die. So it seems like you should have done that. But, again, he's hard-headed. He's very proud and stuff like that. Of course, along with all the other students at the welcoming feast, he learned that the Triwizard Tournament is going to be held at Hogwarts that year. His very first day of classes that year didn't sit well with him, though. In this first class, herbology, he was required to collect Bobator pus for Professor Sprout. Not a very fun task to do. In his next class, Care of Magical Creatures, he was required to help look after Hagrid's newly bred blasted-ended Scrooge. That sounds absolutely fascinating to do. And I don't know why he didn't like that. Actually,
it sounds right up his alley. They blow things up.
Right. Well, if he's not in control of the blowing up, I don't think he likes it very much. So when Harry's name mysteriously came out of the Goblet of Fire, Seamus was among the students who believed that Harry had tricked the goblets into spitting his name out. On Christmas Day, Seamus attended the Yule Ball with Lavender Brown. That's a detail that I honestly forgot. It's just like one of those things in passing. I'm sure if we would have gotten some sort of extended edition of Goblet of Fire, we would have known that in the movies.
These are the things that we missed out on.
We're using our time turner for this episode, folks.
Time turner episode, kind of.
We should talk about that more on next episode.
Yeah, we'll revisit that. Put a tab on that one.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. But I never saw it coming. Lavender Brown, Seamus Finnegan. Totally didn't see that.
Yeah, I think it's at that point, it was just like, we all have to pair up. I mean, it was like, but he asked her earlier, right? Because at that point that we find out is when Harry's like, hey, what about Ron? When he asked Bavardi, and he's like, can you ask Lavender? And she's like, well, no, she's already going with Seamus. So he was apparently, whoever asked whom, was up on their game earlier than that. So yeah, maybe it was went out of their way to make the choice, and it just, sometimes the love doesn't bloom, and that's okay.
I mean, everybody had to have asked before Harry and Ron got around to it.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think the pressure was on Harry because he was a champion.
Yeah, and then those that are held out get stuck with somebody like Seamus. So, not saying that's a bad thing. Come on, but out of Seamus or Harry, who would you want to go? The boy who blows things up, or the boy who lived? I mean, it could go either way. The boy who lived, and then the boy who lived. I mean,
the boy who blew things up and lived.
Right.
I mean, come on, he lived every time he blew something up.
Yeah. There you go.
Qualifies. Counts.
Or do you want to go to the dance with somebody
that we know of?
You want to go to the dance with somebody with eyebrows or without eyebrows?
Oh, you can pencil those on.
Now I'm envisioning that him getting ready for the Yule Ball, penciling in his eyebrows, shaking his head. Damn it! I'm almost out. Take it.
Gotta get my foundation just right.
Right. On his first night back at school in his 5th year, Seamus got into an argument with Harry about the return of Lord Voldemort. A devout reader of the Daily Prophet, Seamus's mother believed what the papers were saying about Harry and Albus Dumbledore, and had been very reluctant to allow Seamus to return to school. When Seamus asked Harry what really happened that night, Harry snapped at him to read the prophet like his stupid mother. I love that sassiness from Harry. He was not having any of that stuff at all.
Don't you have a go at my mother. I'll have a go at anyone who calls me a liar. Yeah, stand up for yourself.
Right.
I like it.
You tell him, Harry.
Yeah. And then even whenever Ron arrived to break the argument up, Seamus thought that for believing Harry, Ron was just as insane as Harry was. So, needless to say, Harry and Seamus did not have a very good relationship that year. After Harry's interview with Rita Skeeter appeared in the Quibbler, though, Seamus apologized for his behavior. He told Harry he now believed that Voldemort was back, and he had sent a copy of Harry's interview to his mother. They fist bumped, they did self-fives, and Seamus and Harry were soon bros again.
Bro time.
In the autumn of 1996, Seamus tried out for the Gryffindor Quidditch team as a chaser when Katie Bell was sent to St. Mungo's after touching that cursed necklace. Seamus was among the students who disapproved of Harry's choice of Dean Thomas as her replacement. Now, Harry was initially against it as well because he knew Seamus wouldn't like it. However, Harry felt that it was the right choice because Dean had outflown Seamus during the tryouts. Can you imagine? Okay, so Seamus is short, right? He's a smaller, one of the smaller students there. And I don't mean that in a negative light, but it seems like he's always had that working against him. And hey, I know how he feels. I was short all my life, and not being selected first for teams. I know, shocker. Get to that later. But I can totally feel how. I mean, I can totally see how Seamus is feeling during this.
Do we know in canon if he's short?
Am I just going off of Devin Murray?
Right. That's. I was gonna say that makes sense, but in the books, I don't think it specifies. Not disagreeing with you. It's just more of I don't know if I don't remember that being in the book. It could be. I don't remember though.
Guys, and I'm not stereotyping at all whenever I say this, but typically aren't Irish folks a little bit shorter?
Probably on average compared to some, but not necessarily short.
Okay, I got you. So Seamus was not one of the Dumbledore's army members that answered the call to arms. I know, shocking. Whenever Hogwarts was invaded by the Death Eaters, and he didn't keep his his Dumbledore's army coin on him at all times like everybody else did. Now, after Albus Dumbledore was killed by Snape, spoiler alert, Seamus refused to return until after the funeral, wanting to pay his respects and say goodbye to his former headmaster, despite his mother insisting that he return home at once. And as we talked about in Deathly Hallows, his role, he eventually did become a part of the Dumbledore's army and answered, the call whenever it was put out for the final battle. And he was a very key player, blowing up the bridge onto the Hogwarts grounds to prevent the Death Eaters from entering the castle through that way.
Yeah, I like at the end there where he kind of tells his ma'am that he has to stay. Like this is something that he's choosing to do for himself and kind of his own volition, making choices for himself. Because I think he kind of saw the error of his ways of just blindly listening to his mother. And not that she was necessarily wrong in her beliefs. It was ill-informed and maybe she should have checked her sources. But like I can see why Seamus would have followed that at the time back in year 4 or year 5. And I think by this time, he's kind of learned from that and kind of is making choices for himself. And it's just kind of a sense of maturity that I think kind of goes along with the age range that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you see Seamus really kind of come into being an adult here with this decision and deciding that he's going to do this because it's what he believes in and he needs to be there to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he feels.
And then he goes on to, be like Neville's right-hand man, right?
Yeah. A couple of behind the scenes things about Seamus is that, during the events of Deathly Hallows Part 2, it appears that he is second in command to Neville in Dumbledore's army. And it's obviously shown when Neville and Seamus lead a group of fighters to the bridge, and, that's when they blow it up. A couple of fun notes here. Devin Murray, who's one of our really good friends, and he is incredibly funny. If you have the chance to hang out with him, I think we did a couple of years ago at LeakyCon. We were backstage with him, and then we got to go up on stage. And there's a YouTube video of us singing "Total Eclipse of the Heart" up on my YouTube page. Great stuff,
as one does at LeakyCon.
Yeah. But go check it out. We had such an amazing time. But Devin Murray has the record for breaking the most fake wands on the Harry Potter set, and I'm curious to know what that number is. Okay.
Well, jabbing your wand at so many things, trying to get them to do what you want and accidentally blowing them up really tends to lend its way to breaking a wand.
He really gets into his work.
Yeah, it's... he's living it. A method actor, yeah.
So Devin Murray does not fit the physical description given of Seamus Finnegan, so that answers our previous question. But he does have the Irish accent needed for the role. Sorry, that was my attempt at an Irish accent. A little bit of Irish.
Well, I was just thinking, speaking of Devin Murray being a method actor, I met him at LeakyCon 2013 in one of the signing lines. And so I had pondered this all day. I'm like, okay, what's the one thing I'm going to ask him in the, 20 to 30 seconds that you get to actually talk to these people while you go through the signing? And so I decided I was going to ask him if he had blown anything up lately. And he says, well, it's funny you should ask me that because I just blew up my microwave last week.
That's fun.
That's awesome.
And I guess the final thing that we want to leave you with today about Seamus is that Alfie Enoch, who played Dean Thomas, and Devin Murray have both expressed that they like the fan theory of Dean and Seamus ending up together. So I think that would be a fitting ending for those two characters. That would be wonderful if that was canonized. Because we honestly don't know what happens to Seamus after the final battle. That's it. It's like the last time we see him is in the Great Hall, along with several other characters, yes, but, we have no clue what happens to him in the future. Does he go on to play Quidditch? Does he go on to, to work in the ministry? Is he a platform shoe model? We don't know these things. Well, that is about it for Seamus. Any final thoughts about Mr. Finnegan?
No, he was there. It was he's a good color character in the background, just textural. Hey, there are other students around. It's a bit of a filler at times, but I think the way JK uses these kind of tertiary secondary, tertiary characters, it just makes the story feel alive. You know, like these are just kids and they seem like kids when you're reading it. And I think this is just another strong implementation of a character that doesn't have to add much to the plot, really, but we all know him and he's always been there. And, you know, we don't need his full name every time he's introduced in the book, every time we talk about him. You know, Neville Longbottom, we still get that every single time. But like we know Seamus and he's always been there. And I think that's the kind of world building strength that these stories have.
Totally agree. Well, guys, that is it for this week's episode. We want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Don't forget to sign up for our podcast over on Patreon for additional bonus content such as Hogwarts Radio, Into the Common Room, a couple of host vlogs that are up there, and our show planning documents so you can get in on all kinds of fun that we have behind the scenes of our podcasts. We apologize for our delayed release this week. We did have a fair amount of technical difficulties, but I think we got all the nargles sorted out. Well, guys, that does it for episode 231. I'm Terrence Pinkston.
I'm Bailey Riddle.
And I'm Luke Hogan.
And we'll see you next time for episode 232. Bye-bye.
That was bloody brilliant.
Codswallop.